Hey, today I'm going to talk to you about making a meatloaf, gluten-free meatloaf. I use bread. We have Udis here, which my son likes for me to make him a grilled sandwich out of. And that's what we use this bread for. We use different breads for different things. It's pricey, so we don't always have it. But he doesn't like the ends. So what I did is I took the ends. We'll take the ends and we'll toast them. They'll come out looking about like this, okay? Then we will put them in the food processor. Make some breadcrumbs. What I do is I keep a bag all the time. And this, every time I have a couple of ends, then I dry them out and put them in the food processor, and then we have them. So when we need breadcrumbs for something, I already have my own gluten-free breadcrumbs. So that's what I recommend you doing. It's really, really easy. You don't have to... Meatloaf was one of the things I was so heartbroken about because my kid loved my meatloaf. So I thought, well, I can still make meatloaf. I just got to do it a little differently. So here you can see the finished breadcrumbs. I'm going to put them in my bag. And here we go. We have our breadcrumbs for our meat. Now for the meat, for the meatloaf. We didn't care for the turkey meatloaf, so we tend to buy from the butcher. It's locally grown, good Black Angus ground sirloin's what we buy. All right, so now we're going to start putting everything together. I have my meatloaf in the bowl. We're going to start adding the other ingredients, and I'm going to show you what those are. We are going to use an egg, the breadcrumbs, some ketchup, oregano for seasoning, garlic, onion powder, and a dash of chili powder and paprika. So there you go. And that will all be listed on the site. So this is an all-natural, organic, range-free egg. It's a pretty good size one. I'm using just slightly over a pound of hamburger, ground sirloin, and my eggs. I'm going to break it and put it in the bowl. Okay, we're going to use about 1/4 teaspoon of pepper and a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. And 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. I do not use onion salt. We're going to just do like a dash of the paprika and a dash of chili powder. And then we'll go ahead and do a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. And that's it for that. And we're going to start mixing this up, and then we will add our breadcrumbs and our ketchup last. Now I like to make my meatloaf about an hour or 2 hours before I'm ready to cook it, so it can actually sit and absorb the flavor of the seasonings, and it'll just have a much richer flavor if you have the timeline to do that. You don't have to do that, but I just recommend it. You know, whatever makes it more flavorful. I mean, meatloaf is meatloaf, and it's not an elegant food by any means, but it's a good, it's a good food if you make a good meatloaf. And it's one of those things that my kid has always loved, was my meatloaf. So here we go. I've got that mixed up pretty good. And we're gonna add some ketchup. If I can open it. I use Hunt's because Heinz has cornstarch and Hunt's doesn't. Start adding breadcrumbs. Those wonderful breadcrumbs we made. Start mixing it up. Here in a minute, I'm gonna have to get my hands all in there and get really into it. But you can see it's really starting to come together. You want every inch of that burger covered with seasoning or ketchup or something. Okay, so let's do some more breadcrumbs. And I did not measure the breadcrumbs because I just do it to the consistency I like. You're probably going to use about 1/4 cup. If you're not good at judging for yourself, then just use 1/4 cup per pound. This meatloaf will feed a family of 4 easily with a little bit of leftovers, unless you have a very major appetite or don't have a lot of sides to go with it. We will have baked potatoes with this meatloaf. I figured if the oven's on, I might as well use it to make some baked potatoes. And it's a little dry, so I'm going to add a little more. I probably could have put 2 eggs in there, but I felt like it was a little bit, you know, the eggs were big, so I felt like we were okay on that, but you could have used 2. So now we're going to start forming it in the bulk pan. I'm using a Pyrex dish. Around here, you're always going to have other sounds, like the sound of my dog outside barking. It's just the way of life with us. Let's see. There. Now we're going to do some ketchup on top. And that's it. We're going to stick it in a preheated oven in about an hour. Right now, I'm just going to put a lid on it and put it back in the refrigerator and let it start really absorbing those spices and seasonings. So like I said, it'll give it just a really nice flavor and you won't really taste that hamburger that much. And then we'll stick it in the oven. I'm going to cook this baby at 375 for about 40 to 45 minutes. And then I'll test it and see how it's doing. One thing you don't want is an overcooked, dried out meatloaf. Nobody wants that. So in a minute I'll be back. Well, in a couple of hours I'll be back. For you it'll be a second. With a finished product. So here it is. A delicious, yummy, wonderful, great smelling meatloaf. Can't wait for you to try it. Email me. Let me know if you liked it.